taking this deep breath and letting it go, coming into this awareness that there's one love, one light, one life, one peace. It is all that there is, and I am of it. I see this one divine light express as humility and wisdom and understanding and peace. And on this chilled September morning, I know that one expresses as the hills shivering in seas of flaxen and crimson and coral, and the peaceful repose of the leaves, once stained with photosynthesis, now release and spiral downward to the soil where they ferment themselves into that soil. And in the snakeskin of the river, as it bends and coils down towards the sea, this one is in, through, and as all of that. There is not a spot in this entire cosmos that the divine is not. And as such, I must be of it. I must be an expression of that one, an expression of that love, that light, that peace. Where once I perceived two and divided, now I know it is one and united, indivisible. I am constantly expressing as this divine presence. This is true of me, this is true for each one here as well, that they embody peace, that they embody love and light and all of those God qualities. It is their divine birthright to know this, to feel this, to be this. And so I speak my word for this spiritual community here today. I know that the words of Reverend David reaffirm for each one that their peace is not defined by the content of their external experience, but resides within. I know that the music here today amplifies the frequency of peace within each one. And I know in that those moments of silence, that each one aligns themselves with that inherent God-given peace that is them, down to the atoms, molecules, and cells of their being. They are not separated out from this peace. They are peace. And so I'm filled with gratitude for this. I'm filled with thanks for this knowledge, for this word, for this life, and for the law that always says yes, that always responds exactly as is needed. And so lovingly I surrender this word into that law, knowing that it is done, knowing that it is acted upon with mathematical and mechanical precision. And it was manifest before this word was even spoke. And so it is.
So today is the final in our series of talks about pieces into peace. And so we're calling it putting the pieces, P-E-A-C-E-S, I think it's up there, together. The nature of the infinite whatever it is, I don't care what you call it, it's the infinite whatever it is, yes? Is that okay? You know, if you want to call it God, if you want to call it Jesus, if you want to call it Allah, if you want to call it the Tao, it's the infinite whatever it is. The nature of that is peace. A person named Thomas Short, a New Thought writer named Thomas and speaker named Thomas Short, back in the very, very, very early 1900s, outlined 7 main aspects of God, is what he called them, and one of those is peace. And it is peace because there's nothing opposed to it. In an infinite oneness, it's not opposed to itself, yes? Nothing can be opposed to it, yes? Got that? Because there is only it. See, we experience not peace when we believe that our true nature, or our intellectually based whims, will not or are not being fulfilled. That's kind of what that song was about. Going down the highway, and either I cut somebody off or they cut me off, I'm not being fulfilled. And then I feel out of peace. When we feel opposed by people or circumstances. But the infinite has no opposition because it is all that there is. Ralph Waldo Emerson wonderfully said, "It is only the finite that has wrought and suffered. The infinite lies in smiling repose." And the infinite is within you and me. There's an aspect of you and me that is always lying in smiling repose, always at peace. We got this stuff happening out here, right? But there's an essence of us that's always, always, always at peace. And all we have to do is turn our attention to that and live from that. There's a spiritual teacher that I knew of that said, used a metaphor that we are like vessels, we are like clay pots sunk into an infinite ocean. And we're just individual containers filled with and surrounded by the same infinite sea. But we forget that we are expressions or aspects of one wholeness and begin identifying ourselves only as the vessel. And then we start comparing my vessel to your vessel. And mine's better or yours is better or whatever we go through. My unique, never duplicated expression of the oneness. I start comparing it with other unique expressions and start mistaking our uniqueness for right and wrong. And then we rot and suffer while infinite peace is available. And not only available, but is our real nature. So in truth, we are all, if you will, pieces of peace. We're all expressions of the peace, unique expressions. But we are all expressions of that peace. You know, our youth have been exploring this idea this whole month, and they would love to share their pieces of peace. So I'm going to invite them up, and I'm going to invite Adrian up to guide this process. Got Lachlan and Leah with him.
Good morning. Let's go on this side. Now, all month long, the youth have been, let's slide down here, creating their own images of what peace means to them on paper first, and then eventually it got put on these flags. And we're going to go around and talk about what peace means to us individually with the folks that are here. And I just want to say that some of these are newly created and need to be created again. And what peace means to me is about some of these coming to pieces, which some of them did. And to me, that symbolizes, like the song earlier, when we are faced with things that doesn't make us feel too peaceful, we get to choose to pick that piece up and recreate peace out in the world by our actions and our words. So I'll pass that on.
Peace means quiet to me.
To me, peace means calmness and wholeness and being with the people I love.
To me, peace means a feeling of home and quieting the busy mind so that you're not worried about all the things that need to be done, and you can just be at peace.
So I'm just going to ask some of you what peace means to you.
Yeah. She's going to ask you what peace means to you.
What does peace mean to you?
Peace means harmony with what is.
Thank you. What does peace mean to you?
A state of serenity.
What does peace mean to you, Dada?
When things are quiet and calm.
What does peace mean to you?
Being with people I love and feeding them a good meal.
What does peace mean to you?
Peace means a meditative state and just taking deep breaths and relaxing.
Thank you, guys. And back in the day where I came from, and during church, we said, "Peace be with you," and I can still carry that, and I say, "Peace be with you."
And also with you.
Thank you.
That was beautiful, wasn't it? So peace doesn't mean being a doormat. Peace doesn't mean being a mollusk laying on the bottom of the ocean just accepting whatever floats in, right? That's not necessarily peace. For the mollusk it is, but not for us. See, the infinite is choosing to express itself through you and me as points of consciousness with choice, with mobility, with the ability to move around. We are not stuck on the bottom of an ocean just like taking whatever shows up. We have the ability to discern and choose, but choosing doesn't mean labeling one thing as wrong and the other as right. I can choose to love to love chocolate ice cream. I've used this metaphor many times before, but that doesn't mean that those who love strawberry ice cream, which I don't particularly care for, are wrong or bad, right? We can all love the flavor of ice cream we love. We can all love the experience of life that we love. It doesn't mean anybody else is wrong and I'm right, or that I'm wrong and they're right. And it's only when we forget that there's only one life going on, seemingly infinite variations, but still all one life. When we forget that peace already and always exists. And it is only as we forget our oneness with each other and our oneness with all that is that we perceive and believe in separation as a reality. Got that? When I get caught up in the belief of separation as being the real reality, instead of noticing the oneness that is the real reality, then I can spin out of control in all sorts of beliefs, and all sorts of scenarios, and all sorts of experiences of not peace. And how we wake from our forgetting only happens one at a time, one of us at a time. Ernest said God plus one equals a majority. God plus one equals a majority. Simply because one, waking up to their true nature, waking up to the oneness of all life, is no longer hypnotized by the belief in separation, by the beliefs that are out here in the cosmos, the collective consciousness, and thus moves into alignment with the infinite flow of life itself, and is thus aligned with the true power of infinite creativity. That's how one plus God equals a majority. When I'm standing in my God self, when I'm standing in my truth, when I'm standing in my wholeness, I have access to the infinite presence, the infinite power. And because of that, nothing is impossible. And I recognize that in reality, in capital R reality, there is nothing opposed to the flow of this infinite creativity. Only when we get into the finite do we rot and suffer and think things are in the way of the flow of the infinite creativity. And if it doesn't happen on our timeline, I want peace and I want it now. Okay? That's when we forget that. But when we are in alignment with that, we start saying silly things like, heaven and earth will pass away, but my word will never pass away. See, the current forms, all of which are temporary, all the things we get worked up about will come and go, yes? Think about what people were worked up 50 years ago. Is it really important today? Think about what they were worked up about 500 years ago. In many cases, Well, it's irrelevant. It's the same stuff, but it's irrelevant. It's not the same form of the same stuff. Because the stuff will come and go. Because that's the nature of form, forever changing within an infinite field that is changeless in its nature. But my gnosis, my word, the Bible translates the word gnosis, which is the Greek word for knowingness, knowing, as word. My knowingness, my oneness with the infinite will not pass away. I'm in that constantly. My knowingness of oneness, of wholeness, of peace, not as some form out here, not as some, it has to show up looking like this, but as the essence underlying all forms, underlying me, will not pass away. This knowing always begins with one. That's why we light this candle every Sunday, to remind us of that light, that presence is within us. Because no one can be the light of the world, but we can each be the light that sparks the light in each other. See, we got hypnotized in waiting for a savior, right? A long time ago. I mean, like a couple thousand or more years ago. But there is no savior. If you want to know who your savior is, look at your neighbor and say, I'm the savior. I'm it. And you're it too, by the way. So we can be the light that sparks the light in each other, that inspires and helps others remember the light, the peace, the wholeness within themselves, within each other. You know, like I said, I light that candle. You know, some of us think we come here for the music, or we come here for the talk, or we come here to hang out with our friends. And on some level, you know, our mind tells us that's what we come here for. We don't come here for that. Our soul comes here to remember who we truly are. And maybe you like the music, and maybe you like the talk, or maybe you like your friends, but your soul, our soul, my soul, your soul, comes here to remember who I am and reconnect with that source. So we know, we gnosis, and we live that divine nature. And only to that extent can we actually practice that, can we actually experience it, can we actually express it, can we actually share it, can we actually be the light that expresses that into the world. And we can only do that then as we remember and respond and live from the awareness that there is only one life happening here. How many lives? One. There's nothing opposed to it. Again, there are things that I like, there are things that I don't like. There are people I like, there are people I don't like. You're probably the same way. But there's only one life. And everything and everyone is within that one life. Nelson Mandela said, be honest with yourself. You can never have an impact on society if you have not changed yourself. Great peacemakers are all people of integrity, of honesty, and of great humility. And humility is allowing that spirit to move through. Humility is a state of asking, how can I serve here? Not my ego. How can I serve here? So let us live as peacemakers by knowing the peace within. So this week, 2 practices. First, know peace within. Contemplate that peace within. Find that place within you, and it's there, no matter how disruptive your world seems, that is peace, that is at peace, that is peace embodied as you. So you're an embodiment of the divine. You are potentially peace in form, and so is everyone else. Yes, that person who cut you off on the road is potentially peace in form. And when you cut somebody else off on the road, you are potentially peace in form. So everyone is peace in form, even those people. You know who those people are. That's the first practice, no peace within. Secondly, notice where you don't experience peace. Notice where you're out of sorts with that, out of alignment with that. Realize that the root of not peace is belief in separation, and then the fears that arise from that belief, and then the experiences that arise out of the fears, and commit to clearing out that belief and those fears so that you can let the light of peace more clearly shine through you. Are you willing to play with those two practices this week? Great. Yes. I'm going to close with a quote from Joel Goldsmith, who said, Only when peace shall have been established in our innermost being will peace be restored throughout the world. I'll say it again. Only when peace shall have been established in our innermost being will peace be restored throughout the world. See, we try and go out into the world and make peace happen out there. If I just get this bill passed and this person elected and just do this thing over here and that thing over there, that's not it. The peace begins in here. Can I establish it in here? And then I will naturally radiate out peace, which will resonate with, because we are all peace within, yes? It will connect with the peace that lives within all of us. He goes on to say, as we unite with the source of life and let it have its will, whose will? Its will. Dang, I always hate that part. I want to have my will. But when we let it have its will, we become transparencies through which this light flows to the world, to be the instrument through which God's grace may touch all human consciousness and enlighten and awaken it so that all humankind may be free. This is living the mystical life. And we're all called to live the mystical life. And that doesn't mean running off to some monastery or cave somewhere. It means living from that essence within us, that truth within us, and letting that radiate out. So we have an affirmation. So say this after me, please. I am the light of peace. I am the light of peace. I clear my filters of fear and separation, and let my light shine. And so it is.